Good afternoon. Welcome to today's meeting of the Employment Committee. Welcome also to those accessing the meeting via the live stream to YouTube. During the live broadcast, members and officers are asked to please ensure that mobile phones are placed in silent mode. Only audio from the microphones will be captured on the live stream. Therefore, please ensure they are switched on when speaking and switched off when you have finished speaking. Minutes will be produced in the usual way, and a recording of the meeting will be available to view on YouTube until such a time as the minutes are produced. The first item on today's agenda is the appointment of the chairman for the municipal year 2024-2025. Can I have a nomination, please? Can you use your microphone, please?
I would like to nominate Gary Christie as a chair.
Can I have a seconder for that nomination, please?
Yes, I'd like to second Councillor Nawaz and for Gary Christie to be chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any further nominations? In the absence of any further nominations, Councillor Gary Christie is appointed as Chairman of the Employment Committee for the municipal year 2024-2025. I will now hand over conduct of the meeting to the Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. I've received no apologies for absence, but please be advised that Councillor Benny is in a meeting at the moment and will be arriving shortly.
I would like to second that motion, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So as requested by the committee last time, I have an update on the current situation with planning recruitment. So since last October, we have had quite a successful process with no further resignations from the planning team as a whole. We have been successful in recruiting to the following posts. So we now have a head of planning in post, 2 senior planners now in post, a planning policy manager now in post, a planning policy officer now in post, a section 106 officer and enforcement officer, all now having been in post and commenced with the council. We still have 4 vacancies which we are currently still pursuing, which is 1 senior enforcement officer, 1 tree officer, 1 senior planner and 1 principal planner. The adverts for the vacancies remain live on our website, and we market these also via social media and working quite closely with the MJ, that's the Municipal Journal, and they are supporting our recruitment adverts. Our new head of planning, which is Matthew Lee, he's currently reviewing our working practices, and we have some emerging plans and ideas on how we can continue to reduce agency staff within the service. That concludes the update, Chair.
Thank you very much. I think all I'd like
Thank you, Chair. So the committee will be aware that this report comes to you each year, and it's slightly late this year, obviously because the committee meeting slightly delayed because of the snap election that was called. So in front of you, you have the Corporate Health and Safety Annual Report for the last financial year, which is a statement of the Council's health and safety performance to the end of the financial year 23-24. So there's a little bit of introduction. I don't intend to go through the report line by line, but to just pick out the pertinent points for you. So the final rollout of internal health and safety and e-learning courses were developed for staff in the last year. Analysis of all accidents has been included in this report, and I intend to talk about those in detail. There's an accident incident rate for employees which has gone up to 7.7. And the health and safety corporate training has been delivered to a total of 65 staff, with the programme of audits and inspections undertaken. They're the key headlines from this report. Just by additional information for the committee, you would normally expect to see David Vincent here presenting this report. David retired in April this year, so we are currently trialling some new arrangements, in part to look at succession planning, which is why my colleague Aaron is sitting next to me, Aaron Locke, who's our CCTV manager, and Aaron is currently undergoing the health and safety qualification, so looking to take up that mantle in due course. But we've also reviewed the post and put some interim arrangements in place, which you'll also be pleased to know have saved some money at the same time. So to take you through the detail of the report, there's a summary of the e-learning activities and the health and safety courses that are available, and you have a list there at the bottom of page 9. Just for your information, you may or may not be aware we have a new HR and payroll system which we implemented earlier this year, and as part of that we will have a new integrated e-learning platform that's currently being built. So we're in the process of putting all of the new health and safety e-learning packages onto the new platform, as well as a range of other available ones that are part of the procurement for the new process. Just over the page, on the top of page 10, you've got a list of the codes of practice that have been reviewed. We have a regular programme of codes of practice and policies that are updated. So you see the Employee Protection Register, hand-arm vibrations, health surveillance, sharps, smoke-free workplace, work equipment and working at height have all been reviewed in that last financial year. At 2.3, you have a list of all the training that was rolled out to staff, ranging from conflict management down to emergency first aid at work, which is some 65 staff. You'll also see at the top of page 11 that we have training which is on the job, so it may not be listed as formal training that's been delivered, but it's ongoing coaching and training that's given to employees throughout the course of their working day. We've also reviewed the induction process and continue to add additional detail to this to ensure that all new starters receive the relevant health and safety instruction. There's a little bit about fire safety and first aid. You'll see that we have done some first aid training this year and how many first aiders we have qualified, including how many we have emergency first aid, and that's just the 1-day course as opposed to the 4-day. Over the page on number 12, you'll see that we have mental health first aiders. We now have a total of 60 mental health first aiders in the workplace that are spread across the whole of our sites in the council. You'll also see that the health and safety panel continues to be very functional, and it approves codes of practice reports and supports the determination of the council's priority in health and safety. And there's a representative from every service area that attends that quarterly meeting. We also have the provision of occupational health and work health assessment screening. We've just actually started again our health surveillance programme, which runs every 2 years and covers anyone who's in an at-risk environment, for example, the workshop, the port and our drivers. So that process is now underway again. On page 13, you have a performance of accidents, and I'd like to, if I may, Chair, just spend a bit of time talking through this. The reason I'd like to is because our accident rates have actually increased this year, which is a concern. However, what I would say is when we spoke about this last year, we did commit to, and we did a very significant promotion amongst the workforce about reporting of accidents. So in some respects, we are reaping the benefits of that by seeing increased accidents. But I would like to go through the accident in detail with you, if I may. So the total number of accidents over the past year has increased, with 26 accidents recorded. The largest cause was other kinds. So we have got the usual slips and trips and lifting and handling. And the incident rate has gone up from 6.31 to 7.71. Now, to put that in context, comparing that to East Cams, which are similar to us, their accident rate is 12.23. I'm not saying that ours is acceptable. As you can see, that Hunts has been benchmarked there at 3.85. I do think the increase in accidents is a concern, and we will retain a focus on that. The majority of those accidents are coming from environmental services, so that's our refuse and cleansing colleagues. I can assure the committee that we have done quite a detailed drill down on all of those accidents to see if there's any themes or any trends, and actually they're not. There are none that we can look at, but what we have done is put a programme of re-education for every single accident to make sure the cause of it is looked at, and that the individual is either retrained or some coaching given, or we do some one-to-one work with them to try and support them when they return to the work environment. So at the top of page 14, you'll see the accident totals by service and team, and you'll see the majority are within the community, environment, leisure and planning area, which is what I just referred to in terms of refuse and cleansing. The table halfway down on that page breaks it down by accident type, and you will see at the bottom the total number of RIDDOR injuries. We had 4, that's an increase on last year by 1, and compared to the 2 other local authorities that are included in this report, as are not favourable. And again, I'll go through the detail of those accidents with you and explain why they were reportable. On the top of page 15, it goes on to talk about total annual working days lost, and you'll see there's a significant increase when compared to last year. So last year was 88 days lost, and this year, or the 2023-24, is 133 days lost. So that's a significant increase in working days lost. Again, we continue to provide support for any individual that's off sick as a result of an accident or incident at work. We ensure that our policy is delivered. We ensure that we refer to occupational health. We retrain, we do home visits, and we ensure any remedial training or action is taken. However, that is a very high number. So if I could just, you don't have this information, so I'd just like to give you a flavour of some of those accidents and why the days off are so high. We have 10 accidents that resulted in some time off from work. Some of those accidents were the odd day. However, there are some where the days off were quite significant, and all environmental health. So we had a road traffic accident where an employee was driving one of our sweeper trucks, and it was a sinkhole that opened and the vehicle went into it. Now, as you can appreciate, that's very difficult to avoid, and it's just a set of circumstances, but that resulted in 37 days absence because the individual hurt his back in the process because the vehicle went into the sinkhole. Now, obviously, we reported that to County Council, and remedial action was taken in terms of repairing the road. There's another one where there was a manual handling where an individual was picking up bags but didn't sense check it or didn't risk assess the weight, and as a result had a problem with his back and had 18 days off work. So again, that individual was given retraining and guidance. We had another one where there was a 17-day absence following an incident with bins where the individual put their foot in a pothole as they were pulling a bin. Again, we've reported that to county. Difficult. We need to make sure that individuals are looking where they're going when they're pulling bins. We also had another one very similar. Didn't check where they were walking, walked into a pothole, 32 days absent as a result of that. The other one I want to just bring your attention to is an individual who was lifting black bags and felt a scratch and actually believed it was a needle stick injury, so obviously we took the individual straight to hospital. When it was scanned, it was actually a piece of wire that had come out of the bag and gone into the individual's arm. So he obviously then was infected, and he had to have it removed, and he had to have surgery. So that resulted in another 16 days absence. So that provides you with a flavour of the days lost that are very high, but we have looked at them in detail and can't identify a trend. They are just circumstantial issues that we need to deal with. So moving on, the conclusions from the accident data at the bottom of page 15. We have done that analysis. There isn't a trend. However, we are very focused as an authority to make sure that we keep an eye on that. The RIDDORs were all, they're reportable ones, were all because of absences at work. So if somebody has an absence of more than 7 days, or they go straight to hospital, it then becomes reportable. So all of those 4 were reported in line with HSE guidelines. Just at the last part of the report, it just talks about what the actions are for the following year. And in Appendix 1, it's just highlighting that all the actions that were highlighted last year have been completed. So we will continue to update and review the codes of practice. We will continue to deliver health and safety training. We'll continue to conduct accident investigations as applicable, continue to deliver health surveillance and the development of the e-learning that I referred to earlier. We'll continue to undertake the audits and inspections as per the audit plan, and we'll continue to deliver a programme of proactive health and welfare across the council. But the main area is a drill down on accidents and making sure we really provide a focus and some additional training and guidance for managers on the accidents going forward. That concludes the report, Chair. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. It's not much of for a debate, really, more for information. 2 people falling from a height. I think you did describe the circumstances, didn't you? What was the outcome, the prognosis of those?
When it says falling from height?
Yes, two people. I think page, was it 7 or 10? Were you at the table of injuries? 7. On mine it is 7.
One of those was reportable. So in terms of falling from height, it's not falling a great way. It's when they're coming down from the vehicle. So because they didn't have the 3 points of contact when they came down, that's classed as a fall from height. So one of them had the absence that was longer than 7 days, hence it being reportable.
Right, and the increase which you did mention from 18 to 26,
Yes.
increase of about 44%. In percentage terms, Chair, it is quite a significant increase, although in terms of pure numbers, it's only 8. Can you repeat or say what preventative measures have been taken to reduce those?
Yes, I can. Thank you. So for every single accident, we undertake an accident investigation, and that's undertaken by the individual's line manager. So we identify the cause of the accident, whether it could have been prevented, and where there's any remedial training or guidance or coaching, then that is delivered, or they are retrained or re-advised, or they are put with a coach. It very much depends on the circumstances of the accident and how the individual, the cause of the accident or the incident. Obviously, with things like the sinkhole and pothole issues, they are immediately reported to the county council because it's their responsibility. And we also advise all our staff to make sure they're aware of their surroundings as and when they are out on the highway, because obviously it's a high-risk environment.
So they are, or they have been. You said they are. That's a matter of process, procedure. Have they been, and has it been documented?
Yes, they have been. It's documented as part of the accident investigation that's attached to the accident report that come through to us. So every single action is documented and it's delivered at the time. Sometimes they will then be referred or they'll be checked again in 3 months to make sure that the learning has transferred and they are, continuing to demonstrate the required behaviours. We also pick up health and safety issues in the toolbox talks that the operations manager delivers, who works in the refuse and cleansing environment. So they'll pick up health and safety issues in that. So it's done at the time of the accident, it's done afterwards, and then it's repeated as necessary.
Yeah, thank you for that. Just one more with your permission, Chair. I note that in the business centre, you only have one qualified first aider. What if he or she falls sick or doesn't turn up?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. They're not qualified first aiders, they are an emergency first aid. So there's no requirement to have a first aider, fully qualified first aider. So if they are not there, we have first aid facilities. And so anyone who's operating in the business centres for the tenancies, for example, would be required to call the emergency services if there's a need to.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I mean, as much as the figures have gone up, a lot of this is just, it's unavoidable. Who would imagine a sinkhole opening in front of a lorry and it disappearing in it? It's and somebody steps off and falls in a pothole and twists their ankle. It could happen to anybody. And as much as the figures are in an upward, which is not direction, which is not where you want, this is reporting, and reporting shows this. I feel that the mitigation measures are being very well carried out. Investigation, training, checking that knowledge has been imparted to the people that are tripping over. As we say, not going in the right direction, but very little you can do about that. It's a fact. And the report is what the report is. I mean, the RAG register is green. I think the procedures and policies we have in place are working. But you can't help a sinkhole opening up in front of you. And you will always, it would be, in a perfect world, it would be nice not to have any accidents or trips, but they do happen.
Yes, thank you for that. Yeah, I think as Sam and I did sort of go through this in quite some detail earlier in the week to understand that. And as Sam sort of said, when we were discussing this last year, there was highlighted that a lot of the near misses weren't being recorded. So I think that is now being recorded. I know it's not good in that the numbers have gone up, but I think it's now given us valuable data to be able to identify where, as you say, where mitigations can be put in place there as well. So as you said, I think it's a very, very good report, and I think the efforts that the team put into making sure that all the council employees are safe and looked after is to be applauded from that point of view.
Thank you. I've just got 2 points. The first you've just mentioned is about near misses. According to this year's statistics, we've got 1 near miss. I did mention this last year. Obviously, people need to be encouraged to do it. Now, I know that people are always reluctant to hold their hands up to it, but, I think it needs to be a no blame, no, look, this is a good thing, this has helped you. I know it's difficult. The second point I want to make actually is about the potholes. Now, this is again from personal experience. Funnily enough, a couple of weeks ago, I was following bin lorries through Wentworth, which is East Cambs, and they were literally running about collecting bins. I remember thinking at the time, are they being pushed against timescales here? Now, is this the case with the 2 relatively major incidents that we've had? Are they being pushed, and therefore, with all due respect, not necessarily looking where they're going? I'd like to think that they are given adequate time to do the work without having to literally run about. And like I say, the example I've used was East Cambs, but there's no reason why Fenham might be different.
Thank you. Yeah, I think absolutely, to take your first point, near misses are really important. funnily enough, at the Health and Safety Policy panel meeting on Monday, we were talking about this and asking all the team members to promote near misses, and it isn't about blame, it's about learning from those things. So some of it is about educating people what a near miss is, because, you know, it could be actually something quite low level that could prevent an accident, but you're absolutely right. So we are starting a process for promoting that, educating people in the hope that we can actually promote more of those where that's applicable. In response to your second point, I think that's a very valid point. At Fenland, we used to have a task and finish approach some 13 years ago, and we actually got rid of that. I know that in some local authorities, and certainly when they outsource, as soon as they're finished, they can go home, which is why you do find people running. They certainly do where I live, which is not in Fenland. But we don't do that. We have a team and finish. So they all start at the same time and they all finish at the same time, and they have scheduled hours. So they shouldn't be running. We're certainly not pushing them. The majority of our staff are really take a great deal of pride in the work they do, and certainly the customer feedback we get is amazing. But I do think that's a valid point, and you hate to see that happening because they're not taking care when they're running around.
My views are very close to Councillor Benny's views, but the biggest thing for me is there doesn't appear to be a chain of events that are all linked. They are just one-offs. So I feel quite content with the report.
Yeah, I accept the report on, different accidents, and I think we're hoist by our own petard. We've given more training, so now people know that these things should be reported, and I think eventually it will level out, hopefully. So, but at least we actually have a truer picture of what's going on. And if I may move away now from accident numbers, walking into the building again today, the thought occurred to me, when we talk about fire safety, we don't always know who's in the building, and I wondered how the fire wardens or whoever they are know. I mean, I have been in a situation where we literally crawled along the floor of a corridor because of the smoke levels, and then we had to send firemen in, and we weren't sure whether everybody had checked in, but there's no mechanism for checking in now.
Yes, thank you. I think that's a really good point. When we were forced to work from home in COVID, we reviewed our evacuation procedures, and we now have a process where we don't have dedicated fire marshals. We train everybody, and we have zones. So if, for example, in the ARP office, there's only 3 members of staff in, and the fire drill goes, everyone who's in that office knows that one of them takes responsibility for taking the fire marshal high-vis, taking the zone plan and making sure it's empty on the way out. And then they amass in the car park, and the controller collects it to make sure that all of those areas are empty. So when the fire brigade turn up, we can brief them if everyone's out or not. So I think that's a really good point, because you're quite right, people don't check in anymore, and people don't necessarily stay here all day. They might be going off to another location. So we did actually change that. My goodness, it's 4 years ago now, isn't it? Yeah. Yes, also a very good question. Yes, we have a display, a DSC risk assessment that every single member of staff has to complete annually and update annually for the desk they use here and also the desk they use at home. So they complete the same process, they sign it off, and they say they're happy, the manager signs it off, we then get a copy and it goes on their personal file. So yes, it is checked every year.